Welcome to the Succor Show. I will be your host, the Happy Wanderer. There I was, headed headfirst into a nest of sharks and alligators. For the most part, I knew what they were doing wrong. They were not working together and had developed the siloing effect. I saw it in Norfolk, Virginia, where no one really works together. Silos of power and intelligence are set up, preventing everyone from collaborating. You see this at every level of our government. It is why most no longer work efficiently and effectively, as they have failed to evolve with the times to meet the needs and desires of their population. Their role. I knew Puerto Rico would be a challenge, and I would have to develop everything from the ground up, including relationships. A lot of faith had been lost in the government agencies like FEMA in their response to Hurricane Maria. Also, the island was unique, having tribal and territorial silos like a third world country, but also had the systems and procedures of the United States government. It would be a real test of my model, and as an outsider, it would be almost impossible to get funding, and I understood this from the beginning. My experience did not end there. I came home in Virginia in March of 2019 to live and operate a unique business concept. OmniWorld Training Center was designed by a Green Beret and a colleague of mine. He had struggled much like me in bringing his business concept to market and being profitable. I would assist and support him for free over the next 7 months as I lived in the facility and developing the funding models and programs of the concept. It is designed around a civilian tourism experience, engaging civilians in an experience of special operations teams. This would be a main funding model, but built around it with several other economic models. This provides a state-of-the-art facility for local law enforcement, military, civilians, and federal agents as they master their skill sets in an informal or formal setting. In addition, it provided a unique space for different types of trainers to work with different types of high-level clients. In November of 2019, we closed the concept location and boxed up our resources and placed them in the storage. I was now officially homeless and had been living in poverty since 2015. It was time to ask for help and take advantage of the government systems. I learned quickly that they are convoluted and provide no real path out of poverty. It became necessary for me to submit to many different agencies and nonprofits just to provide me basic necessities. I moved into a homeless shelter November 9th, 2019, and lived there for 3 months before moving out. I experienced a lot of discrimination as I was living in the homeless shelter, from family, friends, colleagues, and strangers, and it is where I experienced my darkest moments. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best at the darkest moments. While living in the homeless shelter, I mentored a young woman who was working to develop the Hope Heals Free Store in Warrenton, Virginia. In addition, I brought positive energy to the homeless shelter, always engaging each and every resident. The single mothers would let me discipline their children. The adults would come to me to vent and or ask for assistance support in finding resources. A young woman who had many attempts of committing suicide opened up to me about a great trauma her mother, and her brother went through. I provided her the resources, guiding her to restoration and fortitude. This whole time, I was trying to get funded or hired by a local large foundation so I could assist and support them in correcting their own nonprofit model. It reminded me so much of the large organizations and their failure I saw in disaster industry, but they had the perfect scenario and funding sources to create real positive change. They did not listen, even though I provided them with a solid, laid out grassroots campaign. Most of the funding I was asking for went to other nonprofits or small businesses in the community. However, the stigma of my homeless shelter, local politics, and the wealthy elite kept me oppressed. I began working at the Warrenton Fauquier Community Center as a part-time attendant. Once again, community centers is the center of intelligence. The visitor center provides basics if one is just visiting. Community, recreation centers, and parks provide the informational heartbeat of a community. I began working on developing an art program and a wilderness survival program around asset mapping workshops and disaster psychology. I had designed a disaster trauma psychology course while working at Omniworld Training Center, training as a hostage negotiator, and working on human centered PhD in disaster psychology. Then COVID 19 broke out, destroying all the progress and events I had planned for the year. I would have launched my campaigns in the spring of 2019 around my birthday. If you want to change the world, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving on. Tune in for at 1:45 as we identify opportunity, need, and impact.